The United States seems to be preparing for a long war with Iran. This isn't just a catchy phrase for a headline. There are very clear actions that show the U.S. government and the Pentagon have concluded that they will have to fight a long war with Iran, possibly until the current government falls. And this is a complete change in the concept of this war. I emphasize a complete change in the concept. Something that just 6 months ago would have been considered absolutely unacceptable in the White House. In other words, it was just a wish, not something anyone said as a military objective. Overthrow the regime. Regime change. Let's figure it out. Why? Why did it happen? Let's, as they say, start from the very beginning. The President of the United States was flown home from Turkey on a plane that's almost 40 years old. Not because the new one broke down. Not because of the budget or anything like that, but because the Secret Service decided it was too risky to use the new plane, which cost almost $400 million and was a gift from Qatar, at a time when there is an official religious fatwa calling for the assassination of the head of state. It's just too dangerous. And today, Trump himself said out loud what presidents usually don't say in public. He said, "I'm number one on Iran's assassination list." Let's figure out what happened in Ankara and why this changes the game more than it seems at first glance. Today we have an unusual episode at the intersection of our head of state's personal security and broader geopolitics, because these two things are directly connected. Trump's departure, God forbid, would completely change everything. Even if someone comes who says they will continue his course, they will completely change the situation in the world. In this video, we will go through, so to speak, 3 things. First, what exactly happened with the president's planes in Ankara and why this is not paranoia, but a cold calculation by the Secret Service. Second, what was happening at the funeral in Khomeini at the same time and why it was there that Trump officially became target number 1. And third, what does the $1.1 billion that the Pentagon is investing in the British base, Mildenhall, right now mean? And how is it connected to what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz? At the end, as always, there will be a practical takeaway that concerns us personally. Look at the chronology. On July 1st, Trump boards the new Air Force One, a Boeing aircraft modified by Boeing for the first time. The cost is $478. A gift from Qatar, which the American military spent almost a year converting from a civilian airliner into a secure presidential aircraft. The cost of the upgrade is $400 million. The plane is flying to the NATO summit in Ankara together with the president. That is, the president is on board.
Летит внутри этой машины.
It doesn't fly back. Well, to be precise, it does fly back, but empty, with a stop in Britain so that the military there can look at it like a museum exhibit, as Trump himself put it. And the president returns on the old plane, that very Boeing VC-25A, which has been carrying American presidents for, 40 years? And as Trump himself said, it's outdated. The official version from the White House is that it's a gesture of respect to the military at Mildenhall base, who should be the first to see the new plane. Beautiful nonsense. The New York Times, citing current and former defense officials, writes something completely different. It says the Secret Service recommended it. When the Secret Service makes a recommendation, it's better to follow it. Use the old aircraft, specifically for security reasons, because just a few days before that, fighting between the U.S. and Iran had resumed. And the risk, even without a specific confirmed threat, was enough reason to be cautious. Here's where it gets really interesting. On the old plane, passengers were ordered to keep the window shades closed during takeoff. The transponder, which is a device that shows the location of ships and planes to everyone monitoring the airspace, wasn't turned on until the plane crossed the Black Sea. This is standard practice for moving the president through high-risk zones, not based on James Bond movies, but on facts that are documented by flight trackers. And now, why did the new plane, which cost just in modifications alone $400 million, could have raised doubts among security professionals? Why all of a sudden? What, can you not fly on it at all? This brings us to a question that is now actively being discussed in Washington. According to the Times, current and former defense officials doubt whether they managed to finish everything within the accelerated one-year modification schedule. Can you imagine? They worked for a year, called it accelerated, and still didn't make it. To install it on the new aircraft, all the classified defense systems that are on the old ones, well, on this VC-25A, including advanced systems, missile countermeasures, protection against electromagnetic pulses, and something else that we can't even imagine. The Air Force officially states that the plane meets all safety, communication, and protection standards. But at the same time, they acknowledge some of the complex engineering measures. The modifications planned for the next generation of Air Force One were deliberately not included in this, as they called it, transitional aircraft. They were reserved for the future full-fledged version. So this gifted plane is just a transitional one for now. They're working on a new, purely American one, without any involvement, no money, no participation, nothing at all from other countries. So, gentlemen, this isn't a conspiracy theory, but an officially recognized fact. The new presidential aircraft is a temporary solution with an incomplete protection system. And when there's a real, not hypothetical threat hanging over your head and a promise to kill, professionals prefer the proven old over the shiny new. Now, why did this threat arise right now and in such a concentrated form? February 28th. The strikes by the U.S., well, this year, of course, and by Israel killed the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. The funeral becomes not just a mourning ceremony, it turns into a platform where every speaker demands revenge. So Raisi, he's a very tough member of parliament. A member of the Iranian parliament, he's the most outspoken. They all wave their arms and spit when talking, but he does it more than anyone. They have this social network veracity. Honestly, I don't know if it's Iranian or from somewhere else, he writes. Since Trump is within reach in Turkey at the summit, we need to immediately strike his location with missiles, and it doesn't matter who else dies with him. The main thing is to get the enemy, but that's not even the most serious part. Most members of the assembly, which is called the Iran's Assembly of Experts, there are 88 people there, and according to the constitution, their Iranian constitution, they are formally supposed to appoint and remove the supreme leader. They have never tried to remove anyone, but they are formally supposed to vote for him. That is, it's kind of supreme and supreme, so they signed the statement. 88 people signed the statement. The assassination of Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, is the duty of every Iranian. Well, every Muslim, that's what they wrote about you there. Yes, which means that this assassination should be, carried out under any circumstances. That is, even if you die as a result, or your whole family and so on, it doesn't matter at all. In the afterlife, you will be incredibly rewarded by Allah. That is, not 70 virgins, but 70 times 70. That's enough for, so to speak, a whole afterlife. This is not the rhetoric of a street extremist. This is an institutional, almost official body of authority in Iran, the one who signed the fatwa for the assassination of the sitting president of the United States. 88 signatures were put on it. And against this backdrop, Trump comes out to the journalists and says something, which at first glance sounds like, well, some dark humor. But in reality, it's a very precise political calculation. Trump has that kind of instinct. Standing next to the NATO Secretary General Rutte, Trump makes a joke. He would rather be number one on TikTok than number one on a kill list. That is, he immediately drew attention to it. But then he adds, maybe luck won't last forever. And becomes a victim. Becomes, well, a saintly figure who needs to be protected so that his enemies can't get to him. He calls the Iranian leaders behind the threat sick, evil people. He talks about the need to cut out this cancer at an early stage. Well, the sooner the better. In other words, he's saying that he did the right thing by attacking Iran at the time. And then there's a moment that I consider key to understanding how Trump handles this topic in general. The topic of fear. The journalist asks him about threats of assassination. Trump, instead of avoiding the topic like almost any politician of our time would, at the very least, starts comparing statistics. The mortality rate while in office as president is 5.2%. And for a racer, in the most dangerous races like IndyCar, it's 0.1%. For a rodeo bull rider.
0,1%.
And for the President of the United States, it's 5.2%. That is, according to him, being president is statistically more dangerous than professional rodeo. And I suspect even the construction workers who climb on roofs and jump from one structure to another, that's not a random detail. It's a way to turn a deadly threat into part of the public image of a strong man, a leader. And everyone immediately remembered, the ear, the sign, will fight. Who knows the value of risk, understands it, and doesn't hide from it? How can you vote against such a leader? And the last, least noticeable, but in my opinion, the most important element in this story. Numbers. Numbers that for some reason almost no one discusses. While the media is busy analyzing Trump's jokes about TikTok, well, as you can imagine, many of them are being sarcastic and making snide remarks. The Pentagon is already approving documents for $1.1 billion in investments in that very same British base, Mildenhall. That's where the new plane went for a tour. Officially, this is an infrastructure upgrade for special operations units. Well, the ones that deploy personnel to hostile, restricted, politically sensitive areas. I'm trying to quote the translation here, meaning across Europe and Africa. So basically, they're there, right in the middle of Europe, and from there they fly out. Mildenhall is not a random base, ladies and gentlemen. It was exactly this base that served as a key refueling hub during military operations against Iran this year. And in total, according to Pentagon documents, more than $4 billion have been allocated for American bases in Britain, Mildenhall, Lakenheath, and Fairford, I believe. Well, what do you think? Is this just a sightseeing perk for the soldiers so they can take in the sights and feel good? Or is this the construction of infrastructure for a prolonged campaign, which, judging by the Fatwa and the statement of the Assembly of Experts, won't end tomorrow? This is what you get if you add it all up. These three stories together became an airplane instead of a new one. It's not a whim, it's the cold calculation of the security service against the backdrop of a real, institutional, confirmed threat of assassination. The Fatwa, the Assembly of Experts, this is not emotional rhetoric, but a long-term program that will outlast this round of war and, ladies and gentlemen, possibly even this president. And the billions invested in British bases are a silent acknowledgement that Washington's citizens is not preparing for a quick resolution, but for a prolonged phase of the conflict. Gentlemen, the $4 billion investment in the bases from which we will operate against Iran is not for repainting buildings or fixing the pavement. This means only one thing. We are going to change the regime. That's why I'm making today's video. Here we are. I've given all the approaches, all the explanations, all the hints, all the dots we can, so to speak, start connecting, and a picture begins to emerge. We are going to change the system in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Israelis got lucky. The Iranians got lucky. The countries located in the Persian Gulf got lucky. It might cost us the elections in November. I really hope not. But at least I want to say once again, the Iranians outsmarted themselves. Serves them right. Like the video, ladies and gentlemen, if you watched until the end, and see you in the next episode.